The first question regarding moral theories is, what are they? Simply put, morals are a set of rules claiming to accurately and consistently identify preferred human behaviors, just as physics is a set of rules claiming to accurately and consistently identify the behavior of matter. The second question to be asked is, okay, is there any such thing as preferred behavior at all? If there is, we can begin to explore what such behavior might be. If not, then our examination must stop here, just as the examination of ether ceased after Einstein proved that the speed of light was constant. The proposition that there is no such thing as preferred behavior contains an insurmountable number of logical and empirical problems. Preferred behavior must exist for 5 main reasons. The first is logical. If I argue against the proposition that preferred behavior exists, I have already shown my preference for truth over falsehood, as well as a preference for correcting those who speak falsely. Saying that there is no such thing as preferred behavior is like shouting in someone's ear that sound does not exist. It is innately self-contradictory. In other words, if there is no preferred behavior, then one should oppose anyone who claims that there is preferred behavior. However, if one should do something, then one has just created preferred behavior. Thus, preferred behavior or moral rules must exist. Syllogistically, this is 1. The proposition is preferred behavior must exist. 2. Anyone who argues against the existence of preferred behavior is demonstrating preferred behavior. 3. Therefore, no argument against the existence of preferred behavior can be valid. Alright, well, how else do we know that moral rules exist? Well, all matter is subject to physical rules, and everything that is organic is in addition subject to certain requirements, and so, if it is alive, has followed preferred behaviors. Everything that lives, for instance, needs fuel and oxygen in order to stay alive. Even plants strain for sunlight. Any living mind, of course, is an organic part of the physical world, and so must be subject to both physical laws and has followed preferred behaviors. To argue otherwise would require proof that consciousness is not composed of matter and is not organic, an impossibility since it has mass, energy, and life. Arguing that consciousness is subjected to neither physical rules nor preferential choices would be like arguing that human beings are not subject to gravity and can flourish without eating. Thus, it is impossible that anyone can argue against preferred behavior, since if he is alive to argue, he has followed preferred behaviors such as breathing, eating, and drinking. Or, syllogistically again, 1. All living organisms require preferred behavior to live. 2. Man is a living organism. 3. Therefore, all living men are alive due to the existence and practice of preferred behavior. 4. Therefore, any argument against preferred behavior requires the existence and practice of preferred behavior. 5. Therefore, no argument against the existence of preferred behavior can be valid. Since the scientific method requires empirical corroboration, we must also look to reality to confirm our hypothesis, and here the existence of preferred behaviors is fully supported. Almost every human being believes in moral rules of some kind. There's much disagreement over what constitutes moral rules, but everyone is certain that moral rules are valid, just as scientific theories disagree, but all scientists accept the validity of the scientific method itself. Disproving something that everyone believes is almost impossible. One can argue that the earth is round and not flat, which is analogous to changing the definition of morality, but one cannot argue that the earth does not exist at all, which is like arguing that there's no such thing as preferred behavior. Or, 1. For a scientific theory to be valid, it must be supported through empirical observation. 2. If preferred behavior exists, then mankind should believe in preferred behavior. 3. Almost all men believe in preferred behavior. 4. Therefore, empirical evidence exists to support the existence of preferred behavior. and the existence of such evidence opposes the proposition that preferred behavior does not exist. The fourth argument for the existence of preferred behavior is also empirical. Since human beings have an almost infinite number of choices to make in life, to say that there are no principles of preferred behavior would be to say that all choices are equal. However, all choices are not equal, either logically or through empirical observation. To take one example, if food is available, almost all human beings eat every day. If not themselves subjected to violence, human beings in general are not violent. Almost all parents choose to feed and shelter their children. There are many examples of common choices among mankind which indicate that preferred behavior abounds and is part of human nature, and requires that any theory claiming otherwise must explain away this teeming evidence. Or, 1. Choices are almost infinite. 2. Most human beings make very similar choices. 3. Therefore, not all choices can be equal. 4. Therefore, preferred choices must exist. The fifth argument for the existence of preferred behavior is biological. Since all organic life requires preferential behavior, we can assume that those organisms which make the most successful choices are the ones most often selected for survival. Since man is the most successful species and man's most distinctive organ is his mind, it must be man's mind that has aided the most in making successful choices. The mind itself, then, has been selected as successful by its very ability to make successful choices. Since the human mind only exists as a result of choosing preferred behaviors must exist. Or, 1. Organisms succeed by acting upon preferred behavior. 2. Man is the most successful organism. 3. Therefore, man must have acted most successfully on the basis of preferred behavior. 4. Man's mind is his most distinctive organ. 5. Therefore, man's mind must have acted most successfully on the basis of preferred behavior. 6. Therefore, preferred behavior must exist. Due to the above problems, any argument against the existence of preferred behavior can be dismissed as incorrect. Since we have now proved the existence of preferred behavior, the question of morality now shifts. Since preferred behavior does exist, what theories can quantify, classify, explain, and predict it? Well, first of all, we must remember that morality is optional. As we all know, every man is subject to gravity and requires food to live, but no man has to act morally. If I steal or kill, no thunderbolt from the sky strikes me down. Moral rules, like the scientific method or biological classifications, are merely ways of organizing the facts and principles of what exists. The fact that compliance with moral rules is optional has confused many thinkers into believing that because morality is optional, it is subjective. Nothing could be further from the truth. Living organisms are part of material reality, and material reality is rational and objective. Applying moral theories is optional, but that does not mean that moral theories are subjective. The scientific method is optional, but it is not subjective. Applying biological classifications is optional, but biology is not subjective. Choices are optional, consequences are not. I can choose not to eat, but I cannot choose to live without eating. I can choose to behead someone, but I cannot choose whether or not they can live without a head. Morality is thus optional, but the effects of moral choices are measurable and objective. There is no subjectivity involved whatsoever. Now, since morality exists, the next question is, to what degree or extent does morality exist? As mentioned above, the first test of any scientific theory is universality. Just as a theory of physics must apply to all matter, a moral theory which claims to describe the preferred actions of mankind must apply to all mankind. No moral theory can be valid if it argues that a certain action is right in Syria but wrong in San Francisco. It cannot say that person A must do X, but person B must never do X. It cannot say that what was wrong yesterday is right today, or vice versa. If it does, it is false and must be refined or discarded. To be valid, any moral theory must also pass the test of logical consistency.